I'm so excited, Zach, to have you on the show. You've built the most amazing, incredibly interesting platform. You kind of have keep on evolving in your social media presence. And I'm so excited to kind of learn a little bit more about the background of that and how it has affected your business and everything. But before we get started on that, I kind of love to know what people's life was before real estate, because nobody just, well, maybe some 18-year-olds now start real estate, but for the most part, people have had a whole life before this whole thing. So give me a little background into your journey into this business and who you were before.
Well, Kim, first off, thanks for creating this space. And thank you for using such a term of endearment as to say my content has been evolving. I think some others would use different terminology, so thank you. And we go back a long time, as we were mentioning before this call. So it's really good just to catch up, and hopefully we can see each other again soon.
Yeah.
So I got started in real estate at, it was January 2017. I graduated from high school in 2012, immediately went overseas to Afghanistan in the Army.
Oh, wow.
It was the National Guard, but accidentally got 4.5 years of active duty. So
I
I
think
went over.
everybody did back then. I think National Guard didn't count in those days, right?
Right. Well, and I literally just wanted the weekends. I was going to go to college. My mom wanted me to get a degree, and they said, go to this tech school for a year, then go to Afghanistan, then pick up these contracts. So for all intents and purposes, Army. Went overseas, Afghanistan for just under a year, got back, bounced between a few jobs I was not connected to at all, wasn't good at. I got fired from 2. I was demoted once in the Army. My career path at this point wasn't fitting. And I just thought, I'm in the wrong. I'm dumb. I'm unmotivated. And that was one of the reasons I got fired. Lack of energy and lack of motivation.
Which
Then
clearly you've changed from there.
Well, it's true though. It was. I
think that's all of us, right?
Think those jobs today too, probably.
Right. You'd get fired today too.
Exactly. I'm still a terrible employee. So I ended up falling into being a correctional officer.
How was that? Do you have cool stories from there?
What's funny is that's actually where I started on TikTok. I didn't know what to do on this weird kids dancing app because I ended up getting on there pretty early. It was April of 2019 when it was still very cringy. No one really knew what it was. We didn't have any interest-based algorithms at that point. And that's kind of where I started was, hey, I've been in Afghanistan. I worked in a prison system for a while. Yeah, I think one of the funniest things that would happen in prisons, because it is a legitimate prison. Delaware doesn't have jails. We're one of the few states where you find out from me that a lot of them are pretty normal people that made mistakes.
Yeah.
And they want to have conversation. They want to talk sports. They want to know what's going on in the world. And that made me a bad prison officer because I would just sit.
Because it became friend.
I was just chatting. Right. There was one guy at a level 4 prison, which is pretty much you're on your way out or you're only going to prison for a little bit and you didn't do anything crazy. It's like a work release prison. And there was this one gentleman who I guess probably is out by now, but he had been in jail for 25 years for running a drug cartel. And I was just getting my license started. I was literally getting my real estate license studied for while I was working as a correctional officer. My entrepreneurial signals started going. I'm like, wow, you created an entire empire that you couldn't market.
Teach me how.
It's like, who are your runners? Who are your distributors? How'd you have manufacturing? And I learned a lot. He was an open book, but it just kind of put in perspective again that these are people put in different scenarios. Ultimately, a lot of times have the same synapses running in their brains. They're just like, how do I make this work with my scenario? Or, it's probably some bad choices along the way too, but a lot of people, it's just, they took what life handed them and they did a pretty good job with it, all things considered. But then I had an agent who was active in the area, still is awesome. Her name's Rosalia Martinez, that at church 3 different times said, you should be a realtor. I said no all 3 times. I said, that's dumb. I want my 2-week check. I need my benefits. I was going to be a cop, as most military members kind of worked their way into.
Right.
Was even starting to take some of the pre-tests and physicals to become a Milford PD cop, which is where I live. And she veered me off by signing me up for the course the day before it had started. Somebody had dropped out. Wife said, why don't you give it a shot? And she didn't pay for it. I didn't know that until I showed up and had to use the rest of our money in the ATM, and we had like $400. My wife literally went to Rural Farms, our gas station, and got the cash out and used the rest on a credit card, went into debt
Oh
to
my
start.
gosh.
And like most realtors, was not easy out of the gate. My eyes were wide open at 4 a.m. in the morning and stressed until about midnight. And each day started the same. It was the gym, it was the affirmations, it was the goals, and then it was the grind, just like a lot of us. Door
That's
knocking, phone
interesting.
calls, and honestly, Kim, what brought me into social media was necessity. I remember walking around the Dover Keller Williams office in central Delaware, asking these seasoned, successful agents, office by office, what can I do to gain business? What do you do? Just trying to learn. And none of them weren't forthcoming for the most part, but most of their answers were sphere of influence and your friends and the people you know and your past clients. I'm like, great. All of mine are just getting out of high school and dumb and don't have jobs yet, and or I
Or
don't have
they're
any
in prison.
That's true. So I ultimately landed on Facebook as a place where I started just going live at open houses back in 2017.
Way before it was cool.
Nobody was selling on Facebook, right?
Right.
And I kind of wondered why at first. Why was nobody doing this? It seemed like a free connection to all these people. So I started making videos, I started making statuses, I started doing that. I delved a little bit into Instagram, and before I knew it, April 2019, TikTok pops up. Now I'm starting with stories, slowly evolving into talking real estate, and through the what's it been now, 6 years, almost 7 years of short form social media content. We've been able to grow a pretty good system that supports not only my current mission that I have on socials, which is a little different from a typical lead funnel,
And we'll
uh,
get there in a second.
to also having a really bulletproof system with our team. We have the best team in Southern Delaware. Our lead flow is amazing. I've been out of physical production since 2021, but we'll sell over 100 homes this year with 5 agents. So
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, we're doing really well. We're more profitable than we've ever been.
So going back to when you first started, you said it was storytelling. At what point, or was there kind of a moment in time in, well, back up for a second. How many followers on TikTok and Instagram do you have? Which I don't typically delve into followers, but I think you've kind of got a unique little side hustle, if you
Um,
will.
it's like at 2.6 million, I
That's
think.
crazy.
Yeah, it
But
is.
what was there something that kind of took off that wound up? Because I know the algorithm builds on attention.
Mhm.
So did you find a style or a particular video that stuck that kind of helped that growth happen?
Through the years, absolutely. There's specific videos that'll pop off and you'll gain followers for it. But I would honestly say a lot of the videos that gained me some of the earlier following in 2019 through like 2022 was when I got over the million mark. I I realized a lot of the content I was making was content for content's sake,
Mm.
and it didn't really generate a result necessarily. So that's where I kind of shifted more into the real estate side and took what I learned into that world. I wouldn't say a specific piece of content. It's really been the consistency of it. I've posted over 10,000 times now between those apps, and
What's your kind of cadence on posting?
some days I'll have 4 that go out. Some weeks I'll have 1.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I
So
think
you
places
haven't
like
been bound by that since you've kind of built a platform.
no, I don't think anybody should. I definitely think there's 2 things that are simultaneously true. A consumer craves consistency, but a consumer also craves quality. So pushing out consistent content that yields no quality doesn't matter. And yielding quality with no consistency also doesn't matter. So yeah, it's you'll hear, oh, post X amount of times per day or week or month. There's no secret formula. If you find something that is unique, serves your audience, brings actual answers and value, then find your cadence. It could be a podcast that comes out once a week. It could be a
Mhm.
short form video once a day. It could be 2 short form videos and a vlog that you do. I mean, there's so many different ways you can do it, but well, the one key mistake I see with people is they're consistent in posting, but every single post feels and looks different. And then there's no
Ah,
brand awareness that gets gained. Like just like a TV show, you expect it to open with the 30-second intro and then it goes into the little jingle and then your character walks through the door. Like they
mhm.
kind of do the same thing. And that's where content can really be powerful when we have a consistent message.
And you've probably over time evolved in your style and your messaging, right?
Right. I'll be the first to admit, like filling every moment with a word, with a sound, with content is something I've gotten a little bit away from. Some would argue I still go a mile an hour, 10,000
Well,
miles an
you're a
hour
fast
a
talker
day.
anyway.
Yeah, I am. So I try to slow it down, and even at a faster or slower cadence, communication is what's key. There's so
Mhm.
many people talking online. Everybody has an agenda, and everybody who consumes is woken up to the fact of that. That
That's right.
everyone you're seeing has some form of agenda. They want my attention. They want my likes. They want my engagement. They want me to buy something. They want me to think a certain way. And I've evolved into putting myself more into the shoe of the consumer, the scroller, the clicker. What are they thinking? What do they want? What are they expecting?
Hmm. Hmm. And I know from years ago, like you did some major epic listing videos. You said you're out of production now. Do your clients and your team or your agents on your team kind of take that into their style, or is kind of things shifted in that whole regard too?
No, we've completely overhauled that to really just focus on consistent results for the client, and
Okay.
marketing is a huge part of that. But I'll tell you, our secret sauce that's worked for so long now is for the past 3 years, we've really just focused on the fact that we market out of state. Delaware
Ah,
is a huge relocation
it
state.
is. Why? Why do people go?
Oh my God.
I don't
Well,
know anything about Delaware.
well, taxes is a huge deal. Taxes
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah.
We have one of the lowest property taxes in the nation. We're top 10 there. And that easily flows from the fact that New Jersey's number one, our upstate neighbor. PA is in the top 15. New York is in the top 5.
And they're all right near you.
Right, exactly. When you have DC and Baltimore and Annapolis and Virginia and New York and Jersey all around us, we become a affordability haven. Our home prices are a little lower. Our taxes are better. You can close to a beach. There's no shopping tax. And retirement wise, it becomes like a no brainer. Our
Yeah.
primary market is the 55 to 60-year-old relocating retiree who wants to sell their home in the Northeast and settle down in Delaware. And so
Got it.
that's what we make the content for on Facebook, YouTube, and Google, because that's where that demographic is.
And that's kind of where I've seen you shift online is that you're now being very open, speaking about house affordability and the
Mhm.
crisis with that. What kind of was that more of a messaging for marketing or also a passion project?
A passion. I threw the marketing out the window, to be honest with you, Kim. I we both came from the same like ferry infrastructure
Hmm.
community where everything we do every moment of the day is selling. Every conversation, every connection, every post, everything we do, it's about selling. And no offense to those listening, realtors don't really sell anything. We are the mediators of an experience. We're the mediators of a transaction. We're the expertise needed in this flow between assets. We're not a salesman. We're not selling a product our company owns. We're walking into a property we've never seen before with people we just met online to sell a property that's owned by somebody else. It's we're not salesmen. So I got away from the selling side of things and more into the experience. So I call it our triangle. Facebook, Google, and YouTube are really locked in on this relocation experience. That's where our marketing, our branding, our lead
So
funnel leads.
Facebook, YouTube, and Google, but then the Instagram and TikTok are like the
Don't really
extras.
have anything to do with it at this point. Yeah, it's
Oh, okay. So that's
yeah,
like when you're on TikTok or Instagram, that's just you being you versus your business model.
absolutely. And it's not to
Okay.
say it's the right way necessarily to
No, but it's
do it.
interesting. I like it. Yeah.
The triangle, and I'll go in depth on that because I think for your listeners, that's where like how do I make the money on social is where the real sauce is. But I just want to make it very abundantly clear that I take no stock in growing that funnel on Instagram or TikTok or my own personal Facebook. Because when I say Facebook, that's our business Facebook. I throw all of those into the fire, and yet we still generate a lot of leads and we
Mhm.
still have a strong brand presence and we're still well known. Do we get clients from my content? Absolutely. Do we have people saying, I watch your content in Cali and we're coming through? I'm military in Texas and we're coming through. I'm up in New. Absolutely. But is that the purpose? No. The purpose, Kim, honestly, it starts with why I got started, or what I realized when I got started, is a lot of the people around me couldn't afford a shelter. And it was fixable. And here's what I mean by that. So 2018, I'll paint you a picture. 2018, I have a client who works at Wawa. Wawa is a deli gas station here, just like a quick stop, just like there's a bunch all over the country, but Wawa and Rural Farms are the big ones here.
Yeah, that's where I charge my car all the time.
Oh, there you go. So you know Wawa.
They have them here.
Everyone knows Wawa. So he's making sandwiches. He comes to me. His credit's like a 600, 590. He's making 36,000 a year, and he wants to buy a house. So we're able to have a meeting, and within about a month and a half of him adjusting his finances, where he's spending, putting a little bit extra away, did some overtime, I can get him a house. And we did. It was a home in Houston, Delaware, $160,000, $170,000. He had a $1,000 mortgage payment. And because it was USDA and the home had sat for a while, we got his closing costs covered, and he got a check back at closing.
Wow.
So I run into this guy last October, so 4 or 5 months ago. I run into him at Wawa. He's still there. Now he's a manager. As a manager, he's making double what he had priorly made. Kim, if I were to try to sell him his house today, he would need to make twice as much. I can't resell him his house. Wow. He wouldn't be able to afford the payment. He wouldn't be able to get the down payment saved up. USDA qualifications would no longer qualify him for it. He would be stuck. And that's where a lot of people are stuck today, especially in that demographic. Mm-hmm. And it happened in about 2022, 2023, when we saw home prices go up for 2 years post-COVID, mixed with rates going sky high. Mm-hmm. You mix in the problem with expensive healthcare, the problem with expensive childcare, the problem with expensive everything from a grocery cart to going out on a date, has led our younger generations feeling very nihilistic about the opportunity of potentially buying a home. Combine that with the lowering childbirth rate, combine that with the lowering marriage rate, combine that with the mental health status of a lot of the young generations. It's not a good picture. And slowly but surely, I just started leaning more and more and more into being a voice for the people that felt like they were being ignored.
I love that. So with your social media triangle, are you guys kind of targeting that demographic on how to help them?
Absolutely not. No, okay. on the triangle.
That's your side stuff. That's your passion.
On the triangle of Facebook, Google, and YouTube, which you can look us up. Please don't subscribe. Please, we don't make it for agents. Living in Southern Delaware, you can find it. We make content for the 55 to 60-year-old that's moving in. We talk about
the profile of who you spoke of.
Exactly.
That makes total sense.
That's our ideal avatar for our business. But for me personally, I've become more of a advocate than anything.
So that kind of puts you into more of like almost like a political sphere. Like, is there, not in a bad way, but in a good way, because like the more you learn, the more you share. I feel like that would potentially be an opportunity to make an impact maybe in that way.
Well, the goal is to be able to create a platform large enough that we can create a systemic economic change that lasts generations. And I think
when you say we, who's we?
The people. The main purpose around my content right now is awareness. I want people to be aware of what our economy does, how it works, who it benefits, and why things feel the way they feel. I don't think it has to be this political blue versus red rhetoric that consistently goes around. And you know me, Kim, because we go back. I've never been a political person. I couldn't care a bit less. I didn't know how many senators were in the Senate or how a bill passes or any of that shit. So
but now people are probably like tapping you on the shoulder, like, what about?
I have been on to run for Congress. I actually just met with a guy who just won his position in Texas, Brandon. Talked to him about it. I've met with our own Congresswoman, Sarah McBride, on it. I'm meeting with our Delaware state governor next month on it.
My older brother ran for Congress here, so I went through the whole campaign stuff. Yeah. He actually raised the most amount. I'll give you a quick little side story. And I'll maybe have my editors edit it out, but he's a defense attorney. And so he was at a trial, and our current congressperson from our area, is now in office, but she had brought a case of slanders or something. It was kind of a silly case, but anyway, he had her on the stand and was cross-examining her, and he was kind of pushing to the point where she stood up and said, "Kevin Hazlett, you're a mean, mean man." So anyway, long story short, my brother goes up to the judge and says, "Your Honor, please tell me we have somebody better than this running for our party." And so 3 weeks later, he gets a call from DC and they asked him to run. And
Wow.
so that was in February. So he was way behind, but he wound up raising the most amount of money for his party in the shortest amount of time of anyone in the entire nation. And it
Wow.
was all local money because, he's we've been here for ages. So it was very interesting because everybody else that he ran against were carpetbaggers that were not local. So it was very interesting because on the polar opposite end of really what the Constitution speaks of what Congress people should be, the local for the people of the people where they're from. And then you have carpetbaggers that come in and they run, but he didn't win by a margin, but in the end, I think it was a dodged bullet because he even says, I've seen her speak a couple times. She even says that it's a very dark place there in DC. So from your
And
innocent heart, just
yeah,
be a little cautious.
no, and I don't have any intentions of it. I really
Yeah.
don't.
But I could
Because
see you'd be great, but it's a whole different
maybe,
thing,
but just like that, and what Brandon had run up against and others run up against is if you're not for certain ideologies, if you don't stand for very specific things, that money is either going to flow your way or it's going to flow in the direction of your opponents. And you mentioned those
Yeah, and then the very end,
carpetbaggers.
like when he was doing super duper well, all of a sudden a PAC group in DC,
Uh,
came and went after him, and it was,
which one?
oh, I don't know, because
APAC is the typical one that jumps in.
it was a pretty, but like at all the voting places, they had created all the, yes, it's crazy how it works, but they created all these little pushing signs with him, a picture of him in court, like going like, like an angry thing. So it's like, it became really ugly very quickly. So
Slanderous.
in
Yeah.
the end, like I said, I think that we talked to him about that. It's like you dodge a bullet, but it was a great marketing ploy. If nothing else, it helps get your name out in the community. Like now, he made a ton of
So
amazing connections with really, really good people with good money. It's like the local good money. So for that reason, there is a value in running, but it's almost like you want to not officially win, but you want to run for the event, the experience and the exposure, which I mean, maybe just do mayor.
maybe just for the bear. That's fine.
But I think it's great. You were talking about the triangle, then how you've got your side. The Instagram and the TikTok is kind of just you being you and authentic and growing an awareness, but a space for you to share your thoughts on something. I think it's very important. But then what's the difference between that and the triangle? How's that one run?
Well, one's for money and one's not. Just very
Right.
simple. One's for money, one's not. I get offered for an ad deal or an ad read or promote our product, and I turn them down. Hey, can you post a story for a couple $100? I turn them down. I don't want to associate with a product. And I think
Hmm.
that's a big part of my brand at this moment is I don't want to sell out to anything other than the truth. And
Right.
that truth is ever expanding. Like I said, like I did not come from politics. I was a ball head. Sports, sports, sports. And then real estate came up and it was real estate, real estate, real estate. I'd never once in my life taken the opportunity to sit and be like, how would I run my life if I wasn't doing it for money?
Right.
What,
Right.
what, what would I do every day? And I have the luxury now of being able to make that decision. Many people will live their entire life and never have the opportunity to make that decision.
That's a good point.
So people's time is soaked up in I got to work. I got a side hustle. I got to grind. And you and I both know, Kim, like 10 years ago, a side hustle was the bonus check.
Right.
The overtime was the vacation. And people were able to run towards something. I remember waking up 4:30 in the morning every morning, working towards something, running towards something. I could go to sleep at night stressed, but understanding I'm running on the right path. And that exciting journey isn't afforded to nearly as many people today. Because the barrier of entry into living in the middle class is now well over $100,000 a year. Many young people aren't even getting married, so that's going to be an individual income. And so now you're working your 3 side hustles and your actual job. Where are you supposed to actually get the time to dissect and understand what's going on in the economy? Where are you
That's
going to
so
get the
true.
time to know what's true and what's not?
Right.
That's why I want to come in for people, being able to utilize my blessing of time and being in this business and not having this political jadedness that comes with so many political pundits,
Mhm.
and just talk about the truth. What's actually happening? Why does it feel this way? Why does the world feel different? Why are people doing this with, data centers and war and all these headlines? It's so overwhelming at times that I want to help people have a little bit of not a light, because a lot of the stuff I talk about is darker, but just
But
a little bit of,
information, I mean, that's what
right,
I
yeah, a little
find very
transparency.
fascinating right now with podcasts is because you can actually find many podcasts that provide not one side, but just facts. And
Amen.
that's what the news used to be is facts. And now it's sides, and it's hard for many people to feel like they're getting the truth because algorithmically, the more you watch of something, the more you're going to see that something, and
Yep.
you don't know what's the truth. It's kind of fun in some ways to trick the algorithm and start watching something else and see what you start getting fed. Like if I start watching babies, I get all sorts of baby thing or dogs. And it's like, wait, I don't want to watch dogs anymore. So I shut down the app and open something else up and all of a sudden it's about fashion.
Right. The interest algorithm. So the TikTokification of algorithms, because TikTok was the first one to have this interest-based algorithm. You and I both know it used to be where if you weren't friends with somebody on Facebook, you didn't see their posts.
Right.
You didn't follow someone on Instagram, you didn't see their posts. So growing on those platforms was very difficult. They took on this interest-based algorithm off of TikTok, and now YouTube uses it, Facebook uses it, Instagram uses it. It's just a organic version of what was already being done on the paid side, because all the way back to 2005, if I were to go into let me bring it up to like 2012. If I were to go into Amazon and I were to put a football and a pair of football cleats into my cart and I didn't end up buying them, if I end up going onto Facebook or going to a different site, there was a strong chance there's going to be a picture in the corner, an ad of that football or those shoes. It's
Hmm.
called retargeting. They see you were on the site, you were about to give money, you're giving your IP address to that website when you do. It's called cookies. And now they're able to follow you across the internet for 30 to 60 days, getting you to try to buy that product. Now we're able to do this organically. They don't have to
Hmm.
pay anymore. Now the algorithms say, okay, you were watching this. Got it. Let's feed you a lot more of that then. And you're right. It leads to people leaning one way or another,
Or
or
feeling they have all the truth of one way. Like they
yes,
think it's truth because it's all they see.
right.
And it's like, but it's no different than like somebody and, you know, the next generation above me that only watch one of a few, like one news channel. And that's all
Mhm.
the truth. And it's the only thing they see, which is to whatever information that is biased towards whatever they believe in. And you only
Absolutely.
watch what you agree with. So you're not going to jump over to the
Yes.
opposing
Yes.
thing because it feels
And
uncomfortable or ugly. It's like, wait.
yes.
But a lot of the podcasts I listen to, what I appreciate is that they listen to both and they try to present the facts. I mean, many things are biased still, but at least there's a little bit more facts than just a one way or the other.
Right. Everybody has a bias, and every
Of
news
course.
platform is some form of psychological operation, some form of
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
psyop, because they want
mm-hmm,
you to come back and watch them again. They want
mm-hmm.
you to give them the ratings because they're ultimately selling commercials, and if they can get more people watching their things, they can sell more commercials. That's just how it works. And the way that they do this is every story has one of two things. It either supports or enrages. It
Right,
either supports what you already believe, or it enrages you against the enemy of who don't believe it. And the enemy
right,
is the other party. It's
right,
never the actual enemy. It's your fellow man,
right.
your fellow woman, your fellow American that you're taught to hate. And that allows for a divided country that's arguing in their pre-planned packaged groups. You're either
So
blue
true.
or you're red. You believe in this thing. Okay, cool. You also believe in these 800 things. You believe in this thing. You also believe in these 800 things, and you can't divert off of any of them.
Right.
And I think that's just a silly way to go about it. I
It's
get that
gotten
it
so much
simplifies it.
bigger. And I think part of it, in my personal opinion, is because the standard news channels are failing in numbers to some of the big podcasts. So their representation of the news on either side of the party has gotten so sensationalized. It's no longer fact. It's twisting facts to make sure. And so I think that's the least reliable source of information of anything.
And that's why I
I
think
think you're
there's a lot of
smarter to
people
go on
concerned.
Twitter or X. You're smarter to
Well,
go
even with
on
that, that's
even
where people
TikTok
get
for that matter.
that's where people get concerned, because now, those same tech billionaires that own these media companies, like the Paramount deal that just happened, the Ellisons, who own now CNN and a bunch of other platforms, own TikTok. And the same people that were in the cabinet with Trump own X. And the same people that are the inauguration own Meta and YouTube. It's all the same people. And that's where social media probably is going to end up feeling a lot like news platforms. It's
That's
going
a
to
good
feel
point.
jaded. The algorithm is going to, I hope not. I think it's going to start pushing people like myself out of the algorithm, because
You
they
hear that
want,
happening.
yeah. Oh, it absolutely happens. TikTok, a week after it got purchased, I got my second community strike. I'm one strike away from having my account banned on TikTok.
I
And
keep seeing people that I watch that are like,
yeah,
okay, this is a new account. This is a new account.
yeah, it
That's
happens.
crazy.
It happens out of nowhere. They can silence you. And people in my sector, right where I'm at, it's the perfect time to silence somebody, because
Oh,
they're not
yeah.
quite big enough to make big noise. It's not going to make big headlines. No one's going to be like
Mhm.
outraged. But at the same time, it's profiles like mine that do seep onto the algorithm and occasionally get that 1 million, 2 million, 3 million hit video that really influences a thought process. And
Mhm.
again, I want to influence in the form of truth, that we are the strongest asset that we're ever going to own, to take care of our brain, our body, and our spirit, to see that there's better in our community than just the humanity we're seeing on TV. And that ultimately we agree with each other on a lot. And the things we disagree with, we should be able to openly disagree with without
Right.
hating each other.
Right.
We should be able to debate without hate, because this is just a big blue and green system forced us into division so they can chase green. That's the only color that matters to these people.
Yeah. 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 It's so interesting. I mean, not to
And
get,
that comes back to housing,
yeah,
because of
which comes
course,
back to housing. Yes.
yeah, and that's where it grows from, because I just want people to be able to have a shelter, a
Right.
house. We've commoditized this thing of 4 walls, a bathroom, and a bedroom into being the world's greatest investment. Meanwhile, we have a growing homeless population, a growing veteran homeless population. We have more and more younger individuals who cannot get the income required to buy a home. And if people think, oh, work harder, well, the median income back in just 2016 matched what it required to buy a normal home. Now it's doubled. So you're not saying work harder like I worked harder in the past. You're saying work twice as hard, make twice as much, marry someone you may not like just for the money, don't have a kid just because of the money, go after these 3 side hustles just because you need to survive, not because you're running towards something. You're now running from something. It's no longer the big race. You're no longer running to a finish line. You're running from the killer in the park that is poverty, that is not having a family you can raise, that is not having a home. And people are scared, and rightfully so. And I think it's very, what's the right word? It's just frustrating to watch an entire generation get gaslit into them being lazy and
Hmm.
them being the problem, when the
Hmm.
system ultimately is a part of the problem. And I'll put a asterisk on it, that nobody's coming to save you. And that
Hmm.
just because the system is effed, just because it's a billionaire rigged oligarchic monopoly board that we live on, it does not mean we can't get our piece of it. It does not mean we can't have inner peace. It doesn't mean we can't go local, get tight with our communities, go to the farmers markets, support the local companies, and be a small piece in growing ourselves out of that. But I feel the frustration of those that think that they aren't being sold the same American dream that, say, you or I had the opportunity to take on.
Right. Right. That's true. Yeah. And sadly, to your point, it's why people are choosing not to get married or not to have kids or only have one child. And that's not beneficial to our country either.
No.
At all.
Homeowners and families are the number one adders to our economy.
I think that's a big part. And I can see how you get, the more you learn, the more frustrated and the more you want to share and kind of, but to that point, what would be the answer to somebody that's late
Well, I
20s,
mean,
early 30s?
there's the magical answers and then there's the realistic answers. Realistic answers are things like general strikes, not buying from corporations at max. Tax strikes even could actually work toward fixing the problem and forcing them to actually listen, being the government. You could go super local. You could run for your own local offices, mayors, clerks, like these are the places where decisions get made for local communities, fighting the
But if you're like
NIMBYs.
28 and you're like, I want to get married, I want to have kids, but I'm struggling to be able to afford that house, do you suggest people rent, or what are kind of the best routes for that to happen?
The honest answer is it may not be in the cards. There may be better options because, like, let's look at this game. Like, if somebody wanted to get a home today and they realize they're way behind the 8 ball, they make 50, 60 grand right now. They're in a market where there's nowhere close to that type of affordability, and they're just going to sit and wait. They're going to wait for lower rates. They're going to wait for this magical crash that isn't going to happen. And my advice is always to wait while arming yourself. Train. If you think the big battle's coming, don't train the week before the battle. Start training now. Start buying assets, start buying stocks, start holding gold, silver, start working your way into not just saving, but growing your savings as you go. Get your credit score up, get your savings up, cut down the lifestyle choices that you don't need to make. Because I do think there's a large group of younger people who look at the more difficult race that they have to run and choose not to run,
Mm-hmm.
choose not even to
Mm-hmm.
walk,
Mm-hmm.
and will start blowing their money and start making poor decisions. Like, let me go do this because I'm not going to be able to buy a house anyway. I get it. I really do, but it's also not helping. So getting the training started financially now for when it's potentially available. Some of the magical answers, it's our government actually doing something correct. It's honestly, all problems in our government stem from money, from our overspending to lobbying. If we keep lobbying in our government, nothing is going to get solved. Why? Because you can simply pay somebody to either become that lawmaker through contributions, or you can lobby them through lobbying money. PACs and others, since 2010, the signing of Citizens United, which allowed for billionaires to give infinite amount of monies to political campaigns, has completely changed the landscape. And now we have politicians that are in there purely for profits. The Pelosi's, who are the greatest traders of our time, that have been there since the 90s, and others that aren't using the position to be a normal, everyday citizen that wants betterment for their people they represent. They instead are career politicians. And if we could get term limits, if we could get age limits, if we could get rid of lobbying, and we could get people in politics for people over profits, I think that would be the first great solution. And that could get us toward a world where maybe we could vote to get rid of this private equity carried loophole rule, that we could maybe get back Glass-Steagall that was removed in 99. We could get back some parity, some balance in the wealth, because the wealth gap keeps growing. There's simply not enough money available to the lower classes, but yet plenty of money exists. And until we have things like wealth taxes, land taxes, get rid of some of these, maybe even 1031 type loopholes that allow for even real estate developers to not have to pay taxes, there's so many ways that they can get around paying the fair share. It's starting to deteriorate the rest of the economy. Most of our economy now runs on the stock market, and only the top 10% own 90% of the stock market. Meanwhile, 90%, 96% of our Congress is lobbied by foreign governments, lobbied by foreign countries. Why is there any foreign entity involved in our American politics at all? We have so many wars and places that we're handing money to, like the Argentinas and the Congos and the Syria. Why can't we fix our issues domestically? So I think they're magical solutions, because I don't think they're going to happen. But there are solutions. There are ways we could fix things. We could build more homes. We could lower regulatory costs. We could start loosening zoning requirements so that more multifamilies, vertical building could happen. We could start not just lowering the infrastructural costs of building the home altogether, but maybe even improve the process, utilizing that AI and robotics to build 3D printed homes, get into modern modular homes, tiny homes. There's No home that gets built today that isn't 2,000 plus square feet. Why aren't we building 600 square foot
I
homes?
know, right?
Right? Because you know how many people will complain and say, well, just go buy a small, affordable home. Why are you trying to buy a big McMansion for your first home? Dog, there are no small, affordable homes available. There aren't any. Well, where are they at? A, they're not getting built. And when they do, they get bought up by investors.
Mhm.
1/3 of all purchases in 2025 of our market, all of the homes, not just affordable homes, 1/3 were purchased by an investor. The
Crazy.
investor problem is huge. And housing is everything, because when you can get someone into a home, they're not only bought into that neighborhood, they're bought into that community, they're bought into that town, they're bought into their grass. They're a shareholder in the country. And right now we have a lot of people who feel they'll never be a shareholder in this country. So why should they care about it?
Right. Right. And to your point with the spending, because, so many adult kids are living at home. So then the spending's a little not correct because it's not the same as if they're out on their own. So it's like the spending habits are a little bit
Yeah, the spending habits are
less
completely
mature.
different. If someone doesn't own a home, A, they're not locked into that area. They can spend their money freely wherever they would like in different states. They could move, they could rent in somewhere else. They're not paying any taxes on that property. They're not paying for any form of a secondary electric bill that's going to the town. They're not paying other fees like connections fees for their septic or their well. They're not paying all these different fees that could go into benefiting the infrastructure. And then secondarily, when you get somebody into a home that they're comfortable in, that they can grow in, they are a major piece of that local economy.
That's
They're a
true.
major piece of that local economy. And that's why I love when states come in, like Delaware had it for a bit. I wish they'd bring it back. They said, hey, we'll give you 10 grand to buy this property. And then
Mm,
if you stay there for 5 years, it's forgiven. Why? Because
wow.
after 5 years, you've added way more than $10,000 in value to our community.
And they don't do it anymore.
And many states, I don't know of any state doing that right now.
Mm. So you have your own brokerage. What was kind of the leap of faith to start that from being your own solo agent before that?
The original motivation was just being able to market the way we wanted to market. Our current brokerage just didn't really rock with it too heavy. Social media wasn't a big deal. So we opened up a team, then we got an office. I actually switched from being an independent owner. We now actually partner with a boutique. I don't take on the ownership anymore.
Oh, that's
Um,
huge. Yeah.
yeah, back in 2023, we did that. And a lot of it was due to the fact that we were growing a mega team. And around 2022, decided this isn't going to be the wave in the future.
Mhm.
It's it's either we're going to build this to 100 plus agents or it's going to fail. So I made the decision to go after the ninja team. We call ourselves the Knights table, the King Arthur's table. Everybody is a killer. Everyone's an all-star. There's no hand holding, no unneeded training, no let me balance these social interactions between these agents because that person
Right.
doesn't like this person. And now we got to hire because these two are leaving. It's a ton. It's a
Right.
ton. And I just didn't see the point. So we had about 18 agents, slowly let some leave and go and released a few others. And now we're better than we've ever been, serving more people than we were even serving then, especially per agent. And everyone's happy. Everyone's making good money. Team's more profitable, and we're able to help more people.
So are you kind of loosely the team lead, or because you
Yes.
said you pulled out of production and you just kind of are managing everyone else and taking
Right.
care of.
Yeah, we have a great system, 3 assistants, 1 video editor. I have a brand manager and a videographer. Brand manager helps all the agents with their own personal brand, advertising collateral, systems and lead funnel setup. Our videographer does all the listing videos, commercial ads, content for them. And then our assistants are running everything on the back end as far as logistics. And we have a fantastic transaction. So
That's amazing. So are they all W-2 full-time employees, or it works out differently with
actually,
each
only
person?
one of them is W-2, and it was completely based off of just pay scale. They're
Yeah.
a certain amount where it made sense just to switch them to W-2. Our brand manager came on as an independent contractor early last year, but we'll probably be W-2ing him probably January, February this coming year of 2027.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah,
that.
little by little.
So kind of in all of your evolutions of who you are and how you've evolved for new agents coming into the business, like what's kind of your stellar piece of advice from your perspective that you would suggest to them to get started?
You can have no other hobby other than lead generating. You can have no other hobby. You have to be door knocking. You have to be calling. You have to be DMing. It is not just about making a TikTok video. You're going to generate so little business from the time and effort it takes to do that. It is about consistent.
Old school, boots on the ground.
Yeah, that's where the generation is happening, and that's where I got started with it. Like, yes, about 85% of our business now comes from social media, but that's a YouTube channel, right? The YouTube channel brings most of that. Our ads bring most of that. So the number one thing I would say is just lead generation. And if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I don't even know where to start, I would say pick one neighborhood that you're going to hit every single month, boots on ground. B, have physical collateral that you're going to be handing out, dropping off, mailing to those same exact neighborhoods. Maybe it's 2. And third, start a YouTube channel. And if you don't know what to make, just start with the equation of who is my ideal audience. And it can't just be anyone looking to buy or sell a home. I'm talking, I service people who already own, that are outgrowing their property and are looking to upgrade in an expensive market. I am serving investors who are out of state looking for long-term rentals that typically buy in bulk. I'm working with relocators that are moving in from out of state. Specific, because then you can go into what is their thought process? What questions do they have? And then you
What
start
problems are
journaling
you
out.
solving?
Exactly. You can't solve everybody's problem, nor is anyone going to listen to you if you claim you do. So you got to be specific for a niche and start making content for them. And I would say YouTube, because here's the thing with YouTube versus, let's just say, Instagram. Instagram's like a billboard. When you see a billboard, you don't really have any choice in whether or not you're going to see the billboard. It just happens to be on your route.
But you're
And you
driving
see it,
by.
yeah, you're just driving by. That's what scrolling is like.
Yeah.
You don't know what's on the other side. It's like Goodwill. You're like, what's next? I have no clue what's coming. It's like a billboard. They see it. They could do something. But when's the last time you actually did something about a billboard?
Right.
When's
When
the
you're
last time you saw
driving, you can hardly do it.
Right. So people are in scroll mode. They're not in decision-making mode. So how can we get in front of them in decision-making mode? Well, YouTube is like a storefront. You have to choose to walk into the storefront. There's a reason you're walking into the storefront, right? And with YouTube, you're usually on Google or the YouTube search bar and you're typing something in, and then you're getting a slew of storefront opportunities. And then you're choosing based off the title, description, thumbnail, I want to walk into this storefront. And then they begin watching. That is a purposeful interaction. And if you present content that makes it to those feeds, fits within those search parameters of your specific niche, and now they're getting answers to their specific problems, you are of value to that person. They're purposefully seeking out value. You are providing it. And that's the method that we follow for our old heads moving into Delaware is, they want
Yeah.
the
And it's
hospitals.
longer, so it gives them a greater chance to connect with you on creative chemistry versus
Right.
the Instagram is, like you said, it's scroll.
And it
And
could be
most
4
importantly,
minutes.
it's evergreen. So 3 years
Yes.
from now, they might find you,
Yes.
and Instagram is, nobody goes past the first 2 lines of anybody's page. So,
Right. Right.
even
Yeah,
if I
YouTube
find
is
somebody I really
evergreen.
like, I get distracted after, like, okay, I look at 2 of their things and I move on. And it's a
Right.
very ADD
Yeah,
brain.
YouTube is very evergreen. And with that being said, YouTube's, in my opinion, not the place for week or daily sensitive content, like putting out weekly or monthly market updates. I don't think there's a lot of value in that because it's just going to disintegrate.
Yeah,
Creating
because
content that'll
that
last.
information isn't evergreen. You got to say something. Although I do know some agents that are crushing it and just doing.
And there goes the consistency, right? They're bringing value and they're doing that consistently.
So people are coming back to their channel because they want to watch it, because they want to know. But
And
that's
all they
one lane
do,
they're staying
and they
in.
do it really well, right? That's all they do, and they do it really well. So whether it's a podcast, whether it's market updates, whether it's, you could just spend 5 minutes riffing on one specific problem, how to sell when I'm over or when I'm underwater, best ways to invest in Milford, Delaware flips, things like that are specific. You may only get 300 views, but I will take 300 views on an extremely specific YouTube over 300,000 on a short form any day of the week. Any day of the week.
You're right. You're right. And people get too caught up in the views and the watches and all the stuff. And, even yesterday, I always assume nobody's watching and I have nowhere of a presence. However, I just had an inspection the other day and my inspector made some joke about a post I did about road rage where I was going 7 miles over the hour, but I've got a complete self drive, but I've got it set. And so he's like, well, Kim, you can't go 7 miles an hour in this neighborhood. You're going to get a ticket. I'm like, how'd you know about 7 miles an hour? This is my random inspector. But I
That's
never,
cool.
I mean, like, so those are the things you don't know. You might not get the numbers, but people are actually watching and it might
And
be
it
a
only takes
small
one.
niche and it's fine.
And it only takes one.
It only takes one.
And we have videos that are, 45 minutes long that have done incredibly well. We have videos that are 4 minutes long that have done incredibly well. And then everything in between that hasn't done extremely well. And those we've learned the most from. I would say to anyone young, boots on the ground and grind. It's got to be everything. And if you're not ready for this to be everything, if you want to do it part-time or you want to do this because it's going to free your schedule up, it's not the
That's
business.
a joke. Yeah.
It's just not the business unless you want to be in this for 10 years before you start making waves. Like if you want this within 2 years to be a full-time job you can rely on, time to start. And it starts with work. It is hard. It is not
It is
easy.
hard.
And
You
you're going to
pay to
learn.
be in it until you make any money.
Amen. And then
But
you have to
I
keep
always
going
tell
on that.
agents, I said, you need to get inside the product that you're trying to sell. So if you have time in the beginning because you don't have business, then you should be previewing houses every single day.
Right,
So
because
become an
that's your
expert.
brain. They're buying your brain. That's all they're buying. They're not buying a product. They are buying a house and they're looking for somebody's brain to
Your
assist in that
knowledge and your
process.
expertise.
Exactly.
And, it's like you're at a happy hour, you're at a, local event and somebody will bring up something and you're like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe the countertops I saw today. And then they assume you're working. They assume you're in the product. So if you can start name dropping, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe the amazing beach house I saw today. The counters were amazing. The closets were fat. Oh my gosh, you got into the house on that property?
Yeah.
They assume that you have a buyer. So, but get inside of it. So you start learning what do houses in this price point look like and what do they need to have. And so you start seeing the patterns of the amenities at the different price points. So if you become an expert on what needs to happen in a house and you can drive by a house and say, oh, that would probably go for 445 or that would go for 1.4. How do you know that? Because I've been in all the houses around it. That's what any agent needs to do.
The local expert. And that could be done in a lot of ways because somebody who just gets in the business like, well, I don't know that. Go and read the minutes from your local board's meeting on the zoning change that's going to happen, that's going to allow for that target to be installed next to that neighborhood. There's a lot of drama going over on Facebook about it. Do a video on that.
Right.
Do the work.
Or even I look online when I want to kind of learn a certain area. I look online for the listings that are vacant. Well, then I'm not, causing a problem for the seller to have to get out of the house. I know it's vacant, but it's in the price point that I want to learn about. Or go to open houses on Sundays. Anytime I don't have anything going on, I head down to the beaches and find all the open houses in a multi-million dollars because I'm going to get in them and I'll learn about it and I can do a little video and then it just makes me more of an expert and raises the bar of what I aim to do more of,
Right. And people just want to work with a good brain. And that brain could be you're the local expert, all the local restaurants, the local community events, who to talk to, where to go. It could be you're the real estate, just absolute guru. Yeah, every price per square foot home you've set foot in. And you could also just be the local expert in terms of what's happening with the area, the local economics, the job market, what's the next company that's coming in, what's the drama with this. And I know people that do really, really well in real estate just doing that. And they only talk homes. There's a lot of ways to do it. You got to do it consistently. Got to bring value.
You're right. Consistency and get off your computer and get out into the world.
That's a big one. The YouTube channel's huge, but if you're not doing the other things, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. Well, shoot, Zach, I appreciate your time. It's been so fun to catch up. I love watching your journey. I do love to end my show with this question, and that's if you were to move out of Delaware to a state you've never lived in, nobody there, loft real estate's done, it's just you and your family, and you wanted to crush it quickly, what would you do?
Door knock.
Okay.
I would door knock. I would door knock every day.
I love it. And that's very old school, and it still works.
Rain or shine. And I got to tell you, when it was raining, even more business because people
Mhm.
actually answered.
Appreciate
Because I think there was a part of them exactly that was like, yo, this guy's out here in the rain. This is crazy.
it.
Hot,
I
cold,
love it.
sweaty. Yeah, just door knock because you're going to meet people. And Tony Robbins said it best that 2 years of door knocking is equivalent to a bachelor's in communications. You're going to come up with
That's
so
so
many
true.
different new ways to respond to people. You're going to learn about people's mannerisms. And you're ultimately catching people in a position where they're not going to be elated to answer the door and talk to you. So you got to get better at your interpersonal communication.
And that's true. Ever since COVID, door knocking became like a no, don't do it now. People are they're so oversaturated with online Zoomified stuff where actually to have a face person at the door, people are like, oh, hey.
Right. And then how much more powerful is that when you've also geo-targeted that neighborhood and now they start seeing you online, like, oh, that was the guy that came to our house. Now
That's
it's a lot more
true. I
powerful.
love that. I
But
love
Kim, it was
that.
great catching up with you too. I got
Thank
to
you
get
so
myself.
much.
Thanks for listening to Rewriting Real Estate. If today's episode challenged your thinking or gave you a strategy worth trying, share it. The right move at the right time can change everything. Subscribe and listen in next week for more insight, more momentum, and more ways to grow your business your way.